I was raised by my grandmother, who was a music teacher, and then because she was a little old to look after me, she sent me to a cathedral choir school, which is a boarding school in Durham, north of England. I got a choral scholarship because I was always singing and they liked my voice, so I went to that school and learned how to play the piano, the church organ, the violin, the trumpet, what else? Oh, a whole bunch of stuff. But you know, I loved music, and I loved the Beatles, I loved Dvorak, Debussy, a whole load of different things. Benjamin Britten, a lot of the stuff that that I used to sing in the cathedral influenced my later music. Definitely Benjamin Britten was very good. And that's how I got into music. I mean, I moved to London to be in a rock band, and that was great. A band called Magic House, and I enjoyed that very much, and became more of a rock musician than a classical musician, but still remember some of my classical stuff. I still play a little bit of Debussy, still play a little bit of Beethoven on the piano. That's it. Obviously my grandmother was a big musical influence because she was a teacher, so she taught me how to play piano. She used to sit me down and make me find all the notes and practice all day. I hated it. I'm very glad I learned. Big musical influence was Prince. I absolutely adore Prince. He was one of the first artists I ever heard. When I went to school, they wouldn't let us listen to the radio, and so I used to go with my little cassette player and record from the TV, and it was Prince's Paisley Park that really caught my ear, because it reminded me of the Beatles, who are another big influence. I love the Beatles, particularly John Lennon's stuff. Then I went to another boarding school with a choral and academic scholarship, where I discovered The Cure. I absolutely loved The Cure. They were my favorite band for a long time. So that's pretty much that. Those are my musical influences. Oh, and David Bowie, of course, who I discovered a little later, but I adore David Bowie because of his chameleonic qualities and ability to do pretty much anything. Beautiful voice too. Well, if I wasn't a musician, I would probably have followed through on my desire to be a neurosurgeon. I was top of the class in biology, and I could speak Latin, and that's apparently all you need to qualify, or to at least be considered to study medicine. And if I had not been a neurosurgeon, I would have been a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I think I'm very interested in the function of the brain, whether it be material or psychological. So I think that's it. I was born in Leeds. I spent not very much time there. We moved to South Wales. I went to university in York, which is where I started my musical journey properly. I moved to London, and some of the highlights from being in my first band in London, Magic House, was supporting the Stranglers and playing a stadium, Don Valley Stadium. We won a competition that meant we supported Paul Weller and Travis, Skunk Anansie and David Byrne at a festival stadium show, Don Valley Stadium. Highs, then I joined a band called Whitey and traveled all over the world. We headlined festivals, electronic rock festivals all over, and that was wonderful. And then moving to LA, obviously I played a lot of shows in LA. I musical directed an artist called Curly, who's signed to Island Def Jam. Very, very skilled singer and beautiful girl, wonderful songwriter. For some reason didn't quite take, but it was really good stuff. And then obviously being here, working on Plush, a movie with Nick Launay, who's one of my good friends, a music producer, and then getting to meet all these wonderful people, famous people. I met Prince a couple of times, met Bowie. Yeah, there's been some highs and some wonderful shows. I mean, from Stadia to festival headlines, the whole thing. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, and I'm very lucky. I understand that worked with some magnificent people. Siobhan from Shakespeare's Sister, Alan from Morrissey's band, David J from Bauhaus, Nick Zinner from the AAS. I mean, I've worked with some really wonderful people, and I feel very blessed. Making money, basically. I've learned to produce my own stuff, basically because recording is, you know, something that you have to do when the muse takes you, and if you can do it yourself, then you're in a lot better position than if you just have to rely on somebody else to push the record button. And I generally just work on my own most of the recording process, and then sometimes bring people in like Nick Launay, Robert Margalef. So it's a great collaborative process, but it's, yeah, making money, making music is the biggest challenge, but I love every other part of it. When I first moved to London, I just moved out of a long time of being in education. From 7, I went to boarding school, to 22 when I left university. I'd been in education all that time, and moving to London, there was a huge sense of opportunity. I went there with my girlfriend, and there was just clubs and bars and opportunity and interesting people and different things that I'd never experienced before. So I used to go to this place called Cafe Bohème, which was under Soho House on Old Compton Street in London, and used to bring my pad with me and write lyrics and poetry and prose and stuff like that. And I just remember looking around myself and laughing at myself. And actually the story of that is the story of the lyrics. The lyrics tell the literal story of that moment of me writing. And so yeah, I wrote it a while back, and I just finished recording it because I thought it had just sounded right. That was my inspiration. I used to go to clubbing, which I'd never had the opportunity to do before because I was cooped up in institutions. And the beat behind the wall, you could just hear it throbbing through the door and through the wall of everywhere around you, certainly in central London, which is the most wonderful place in the world in those days. So I have a good friend who's called Alex Tovar, and he is an absolutely wonderful photographer. He's heavily influenced by Anton Corbijn, who is Depeche Mode and Brian Ferry and Joy Division's photographer, and he is every bit the artist. So he told me he found this wonderful location, which is a haunted railway station in Barstow, which is in just north of Los Angeles, and he just really wanted to shoot there. And obviously around there are these railway sidings, there are these sleepers laid out, there are these gigantic bridges, and then there's this building which is haunted. So he just wanted to basically shoot, get some footage of me walking around there. Basically, I had a slightly higher concept for it, and it didn't quite turn out that way. I think we're gonna do something for the next video. It's a green screen. I'm working with a dancer at the moment who is absolutely wonderful, and she's going to help me with a green screen do an interactive video that's going to be at a distance, because obviously we're all socially distanced at the moment. And it was going to be starting with Secret because I had a nice concept for it. But what I think we did get is this stark contrast, like wonderful location, and I edited it myself because I felt like I knew where it should go from that. I've done a lot of music videos, and I feel quite attached to aesthetic more than narrative in some senses. So that was the concept of that. So I have a lot of projects in the pipeline, actually, funnily enough. I'm going to be releasing a song a month for the foreseeable future. It's going to be, next one is called Evolution, and the one after that is probably going to be a song called Hate You, which is not my usual paradigm. I don't want to put hate out into the world, but some people cause a reaction. So that's what that one's about. I've got a planned collaboration with Carmine Rojas, who used to play bass for David Bowie. He's interested in doing some recording with me. I just did a very secret project with David J from Bauhaus, and that will be seeing the light of day soonish. MGT, who also plays with Peter Murphy and The Mission and Tricky, and I have done some stuff together, which is going to be coming out soon. In fact, MGT played on Evolution, so there's going to be his version, which is his complete version, and then the version where I have my version with his guitars on it. What other projects? I've been asked to go and write with somebody in Prague, which will be very interesting. I can't talk about it yet because it's not solidified. Other projects. This video, which I'm very excited about, with the dance I was talking to you about. I think that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. And I'm also doing some work with Darwin, whose last album I produced and a couple of new singles I produced. He is doing a new project, and I will be the singer for it. It's a limitations project. We've decided to put specific limitations on what we do so we can do something experimental and fun for us all, so we don't get too carried away with ideas. Just make them simple, you know. Well, you can look on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com, The Singularity Music, I believe. Then on YouTube, it's The Singularity Band, I think. Then on Instagram is The Singularity M. All this stuff I'm going to have to change at some point because I'm going under my name Julian Shah Tayler from this point forward, after discussion with my wonderful manager, Vicky Hamilton, who's got some great bands at the moment. She used to manage Guns N' Roses. So it's all good. Everything's good. I'm going to provide the info. Oh, my website is julianshahtayler.com. You can get signed artwork, signed lyrics, t-shirts, anything you want. So I hope that's been useful for you, and thank you very much for interviewing me. I'm very appreciative of the attention that you give me. I appreciate it. Bye.